Welcome this morning. We'll just get things started in just a minute, but I wanted to take an opportunity to introduce a special person who's here to say a quick word to you of greeting. We were very fortunate back in December to elect a new chair of the board of the New York Philharmonic. We elected someone who has been involved with the New York Philharmonic as a board member since 2007, has been a really passionate, enthusiastic supporter of the Philharmonic, very generous. He and his wife, Dee Dee, have supported our concerts in the parks, this great tradition here in New York City. And so we're thrilled that as of January 15th, he has assumed the role of chair of the board of the New York Philharmonic, and I want to introduce you to him right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Oscar Schaefer.
That's much better applause, much better applause. I really want to thank you for coming. Number one, you didn't come to hear me, you heard to hear about the new season, which, as you see in your brochure, is very exciting and typical of Alan being creative in the past and in the future. I also want to thank Matthew, who's done a great job as the new president of, how long have you been here? 3 years almost? 3 years, 3 years. And also all the supporters who are here and the trustees.
Each year we have this great moment where we get to announce the details around an extraordinary body of work that's happened the previous year. And we have a lot of exciting things to tell you about in just a couple of minutes. I think we're at a really special point here at the New York Philharmonic. We have had the great fortune of having Alan as our music director and our artistic leader for 5.5 years now. This is his 6th season, and I think all of us would agree that Alan has really, in the most dramatic way, sort of positively disrupted the New York Philharmonic in terms of how we think about programming, how we think about repertoire, the way in which we present concerts. So I think you'll see in the 2015-16 season a continuation of that spirit, and we are just incredibly fortunate to have not only now great leadership on the board front and throughout our organization, but an incredible artistic leader in Alan Gilbert. So ladies and gentlemen, our maestro music director, Alan Gilbert.
This is about announcing the season, and actually it's quite comfortable for me because a lot of the information will come out in videos that we've prepared, and of course you have your materials with you. But just to kick it off, if I could take a moment to reflect, it's funny, I don't go day by day thinking about how it's going or whether we're doing the right thing. There's so much work to do, there's so much momentum that kind of the work itself is what's at hand. But if I do step away and look at where we are, where we were, where we've come, these days I'm able to look with a lot of joy and a lot of pride at the journey that we've undergone together. Amazingly, this is the 7th season that I'm announcing as music director, and there is perspective now. There is a sense of time, and there's a sense of progression over the years, and it's really gratifying to see that actually some of the things that we hoped would happen have actually happened, and it's taken this long to allow them to live their lives and create a kind of life of their own. The artist in residence position, the composer in residence position, this sense of connection with you, with our public, with our audience. It was, for me personally, extremely powerful in the very last thing I did with the orchestra, the Verdi Requiem. It was, for me, a highlight. A lot of things came together. The orchestra sounded unbelievable, magnificent. We had a wonderful group of singers. But almost more than that, it was this sense of shared experience, the sense of shared purpose that was so strong in the atmosphere in the hall. The concentration was 100%. It was exemplary. And at the end of the day, what really came to life was Verdi. And that's what we're here for. And I was just walking over with David Sneed, our marketing director, and we were reflecting. Actually, things have have changed, and you hope it's going to happen that way, and you never know quite for sure. But now with the span of 7 years under, or seven announcements of seasons under my belt, I think it's fair to say that we really have come somewhere, and it is what it was always an amazing, wonderful organization, has a fresh connection with the city that we serve, and so I'm very pleased to be able to look in and remind myself that actually, this is what it's for. This is why we're doing it. As I said, a lot of information is in your booklets. I'm not going to try to, by any means, spell out point by point, because all that information is available to you. But there are certain highlights that I definitely want to bring forward. And why don't we start with our composer in residence, whom we are announcing for next year. This is somebody who has already a long history with the orchestra. He's a distinguished musician, wonderful conductor. But it's been fun for me as a friend of Esa-Pekka Salonen to watch what has happened with him over the years. He's always said to his close friends that for him composing is incredibly important, and from long ago, before I think the public was aware that this was as important as it is to him, he was devoting chunks of time each year to composition. And now I think it's fair to say that he is as recognized as a composer, as a conductor, and rightly so. This happens to be his first major appointment as a composer, and I'm very proud that the New York Philharmonic snagged that. But as someone who is such an important musician in the world at large and such a good friend of the New York Philharmonic, it's extremely pleasing to me that Esa-Pekka will not only be conducting, but will be serving in a very crucial role. Will play a lot of his music, but also he's helping out and advising on a lot of our contemporary music projects. So Esa-Pekka Salonen will be our next composer in residence.
It's a new departure in my life. I've been chief conductor of various organizations in the past 17 years in Los Angeles. When Alan proposed this composer in residence thing a few years ago, I thought this is pretty perfect. Alan Gilbert is going to conduct most of my works, and I have such great admiration for him. The New York Philharmonic is one of the very few orchestras in the world where I feel that I can really ask for almost impossible things, and they still deliver. They play contemporary music with the same kind of conviction and abandon as they would play Brahms or Beethoven or Bruckner or whatever. It's a very seminal piece. It kind of ties together the two sides of my personality. I had been long enough in LA to feel free of the European modernist canon. I was no longer afraid of Pierre Boulez's. I just felt, okay, now I really have to sit down and start composing. Finally, I realized that I have to write music that I would like to perform. The first performance of this piece was in Zurich, and I started to think about the cultural history of Zurich. And I realized that, of course, this is the place where Dada was born. Then I remembered that Hugo Ball, who was maybe the father of Dada, had written this poem Caravane early on. You can read it in many different ways. It can be like almost like an onomatopoetic description of a caravan, like a circus, endlessly going around a mountain, stopping, giving a performance, going to the next place. I thought that I want to find material where I can use the words as phonetic material without worrying about the syntax and the meaning of it. Or I can create my own meaning. Messiaen is really unique, and if you listen to his music, it doesn't follow any established laws of composition. It's more like statement, other statement, yet another statement. And I cannot really think of anyone else who would use quite these sort of principles. So you hear one measure of Messiaen, and you know it's by him. What attracts me to this massive composition is the sort of outrageous, limitless, free nature of it. He goes from kind of outrageously sickly sweet expression to really austere constructivist expression within one 75-minute span, and that makes it endlessly fascinating. I'm very excited to be involved in the planning of the next biennial, and I think it's a fantastic concept that so many different organizations and groups and ideas come together to be able to play new music in smaller venues, away from the sort of establishment. I'm a little superstitious about talking about pieces that I haven't written yet, but I'm planning to write a straight orchestra piece, not very long, something that could be used as an opener in a concert, and I have some ideas that I would like to develop. Today, the musical scene in New York, led by the Philharmonic, seems very vibrant and open-minded. I'm very lucky in the sense that I'm able to work with this organization, during which later in history will be called one of the golden periods of the Philharmonic, I'm sure.
He's awesome. Before I talk about the next person in our artistic team, I just want to give a shout out to, well, Matthew, who's such an important artistic partner and is so full of good ideas and is so supportive of so much of what I hope to bring to life, but also Ed Yim, who's our Director of Artistic Planning, and it really is a team. I couldn't do it myself, and it's tremendously exciting to throw ideas around and unfortunately throw out a lot of good ideas because there are just simply too many things to actually bring to life. But it's a wonderful team, and that spirit of working together is really what I hope to bring to all dimensions of what we do. And in that light, the fact that Eric Owens will be our next artist in residence is, I think, particularly exciting. As many of you know, Eric has been singing with the orchestra for a long time, and if you heard the Verdi Requiem last week, you saw a perfect example of what he brings to everything he does. Of course, he's an amazing singer. He's become the legendary Alberich in recent years at the Metropolitan. There's something so telling and human about what he brings, and he's so avid and passionate about sharing his art with everybody. And the fact that he will be in residence, very much present and around and doing many different things, I think will bring an enormous amount to the New York Philharmonic. Well, we've done a lot together. He was in the Grand Macabre that I did in my first season. He appeared in a non-singing, speaking video role in The Dancer's Dream recently. We've done Missa Solemnis together, and just now the Verdi Requiem, in addition to a number of other things. He's just the kind of artist that we should have in the family, and I'm totally psyched that he'll be here, and we can hear a little bit from Eric himself.
To have that season-long relationship with an ensemble of such an illustrious and storied history, to be a part of that family, I'm really excited about it. What I set out to do is to make some beautiful music with wonderful musicians, and to truly be a member of the orchestra and a member of that administration. And what an amazing opportunity to be able to do that with one ensemble, and to come and revisit, and you have a rapport. It's like slipping back into a wonderful friendship.
And 7 angels with 7 bright trumpets, they will sound their trumpets.
I was interested in looking back at some people who in many ways paved the way for me. 4 great artists who fit that bill are Marian Anderson, Betty Allen, George Shirley, and William Warfield. They were pioneers. We're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna honor some amazing people, and we're gonna have some amazing people, concert singers of today. I don't know of any other operatic opus that has this kind of cult following. It's like Star Trek. It's great to be able to sing parts of it with a full orchestra, and also, I mean, with an orchestra that's like right there. To sing Mahler with Mahler's orchestra. That's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. Anytime that I get to do something like that, I mean, it's such a precious gift. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. Oh my God. That's probably, and I know this is stupid, but that's probably like my favorite thing coming up this season. When they asked me if I would do that, I said, hell yeah. It'll be fun. It'll be cool to have some fun, on stage. Being a person who's come up through the public school system and was given so much by so many different people. I mean, as cliche as it is, you give back. And I just want to make music and be a part of the community.
I just wanted to add one. I think Alan was talking about, an artistic team here internally, but the fact that Esa-Pekka is coming, the fact that Eric is coming, I mean, that's an amazing team. And I love the fact that Eric will take this artist in residence idea, I think, to other dimensions and other ways. I think it's going to be the broadest, most sort of holistic artist in residence that we've had here at the New York Philharmonic. So I think it's going to be fantastic artistically, but you can hear his passion and enthusiasm for broadening that role for the Philharmonic. So bravo.
No, it's tremendously exciting. He well, as a close friend for a long time, we've talked about a lot of these things, and it wasn't until this coming year that he would have been able to spend this much time, but there were so many things that have come up just organically out of his persona and his desire to be the artist that he is, that it well, makes our job a lot easier. It's fantastic. There are a couple of festivals coming up next year. The biennial we can turn to a little bit later, although there's not that much to say specifically at this point. But in the meantime, for our annual festival concept, we're turning back to this notion of focusing on one composer and one performer, and what a performer it is. If you were lucky enough to hear Daniil Trifonov play Rachmaninoff, a couple of weeks ago, you know what I'm talking about. I did Prokofiev Third Piano Concerto with him a couple of years ago, and he was already big. I wish I could claim to have discovered him, but in the intervening period of time, he has become super big, and it was obvious that that was the direction it was going, but he's literally exploded on the scene. There's something so utterly compelling and beguiling and mysterious about the way he plays. Technically, it's astonishing, but there's this sense of danger and risk and charisma that connects with audiences in a way that I've almost never seen before. He'll be playing a lot of Rachmaninoff. We're having a few different conductors working with him. This is going to be a real event in New York City. He's a true superstar.
It is really interesting when you have concerti of the same author in one cycle. You can actually see all the connections between works in its unique independence. Every Rachmaninoff concerto has a very particular atmosphere. Always fantastic experience from here. There is always something new you learn about it. It's really amazing compositional work. He develops material into completely unexpected turns. There is a sense of a certain perfection.
The biennial, since I mentioned it, I thought I'd just jump right to it. This is one of the initiatives that the New York Philharmonic has done that I'm perhaps most proud of. There are many, but this one was a real achievement, not least because we worked with so many other partners, so many different organizations, so many different artists. Again, this is something that we couldn't have done alone, but this level of cooperation, this level of shared purpose was pretty special, I think, and we're going to do that again. Again, specific details, I think for very good reason, are not revealed today. We would like to have a dedicated event for that, and also we want to stay flexible and make it possible to plan up until really the last possible minute and be able to catch things as they occur. If something happens to create a buzz in Paris or wherever, you know, maybe we might want to get in on that closer to the time that we actually do these performances. But there are a few partners who are here represented. Matthew, help me out here. The director of the Interlochen School, who will be here.
Jeff Kimpton is here today from the Interlochen Academy.
Say
Welcome,
hello.
Jeff.
Nice that you're here. There are groups from around the country, not just in New York. Of course, we'll be working with New York groups as well. Gotham Chamber Opera again, American Composers Orchestra, who is here as well. Hey, how are you doing? But the Aspen Festival is going to send their contemporary ensemble. It will be a widely shared endeavor, and once again, I've said it before, but I'll say it again. It's highly editorial. We are making choices about what we want to include based on our tastes. Again, there's so many things that we could possibly do. You know, the percentage of ideas that we are able to actually include is incredibly slender, but even so, we'll try to, you know, we say very often in our biennial planning meetings that more is more. To the extent possible, we try to live that. I was very excited by the reception that we got last time around, and I expect and hope that it will be even more buzz and thrill that's happening this next time. But as a quick reminder of a little bit of what happened last time, we prepared this.
Quelled all of my, I don't know, ideas about what I was going to go see. So it was just kind of really visionary and really wonderful.
Innovative. It's not the type of symphony material I had been to.
The idea of a festival really resonates. People will go to things like Bonnaroo and these types of big, pop festivals. And I think that's what's going to be really cool about this for classical music.
One specific project that I will mention that will happen in the upcoming biennial is an opera by Gerald Berry, The Importance of Being Earnest. And I mention that because it's a very important work that I'm very happy to present, but more particularly because will be the second installment in a recently announced collaboration between the New York Philharmonic and Lincoln Center, presenting operas together, fully staged operas. This is another example of, I guess, a recurring theme of this announcement: cooperation and collaboration, and the fact that we're able to work with Jed Bernstein and Jane Moss in such a meaningful, close way is really new and I think really wonderful. You want to mention anything about that?
I think the biennial and so much of what we do now is about more and more collaboration, and I love that Alan and the artistic team here has really endeavored to figure out ways to really pull people in and do things together, things that can be even more special because you're doing them together. And I think this opera initiative with Lincoln Center is a perfect example of that. So I'm very excited about the fact that we're doing the biennial again, but the fact that we're bringing even more collaborators to the table this time across an even wider spectrum, and especially on the educational side, is really terrific.
And the best thing is that now, since it's happening 2 years later, we really have earned the right to call it a biennial.
It's really a biennial.
We'll turn now to just various features of the season, certainly not exhaustive, but representative of, I think, the range and the breadth and the richness of the ideas that we have. In no particular order, I'm very, very honored that Bernard Haitink will be coming back to conduct Mahler Symphony No. 9, no less. To have him at all is kind of a huge deal for any orchestra, any city for that matter, and to have him turn his magic to arguably the most important symphonic utterance of the 20th century is something that I think shouldn't be missed. He's a dear friend, and he feels very strongly about the Philharmonic, which is why he's coming at all. Inon Barnatan will be in his second year as artist in association. This is a new position that we've instituted starting this year. He's a terrific young pianist whom we believe in so much that we committed to 3 years of concerts and collaborations with him. He'll be playing Ravel Concerto with me later this season, and he'll come back to play, is he playing Mozart next year? With Jaap van Zweden, another very dear friend of the Philharmonic, who's doing a couple of weeks, including Beethoven Fifth Symphony and, tell me, and the Symphonia de Requiem of Britain. Help me out, Matthew, because I just want to sort of fly through things.
No, I thought
here.
one thing that would be great for you to talk about for a couple of minutes are the musicians in the orchestra that you've tapped, if it were, to come and be soloists during the year. We've got such incredible musicians in the orchestra. To give them that opportunity and to have us have the opportunity of hearing them is really special.
When I hear the orchestra playing in these clips, it's incredible how they sound, just the level of playing, and it's really appropriate, I think, to give them chances. A number of them have also spoken for us on video, and some of the guest artists as well. Maybe we should do that, and then we'll see what gaps there are to fill. Let's roll that.
Hello, this is Thomas Hampson. I'm very much looking forward to coming back in the 2015-16 season to the New York Philharmonic and my good friend and great maestro, Alan Gilbert.
Hi, I'm Christoph Eschenbach, and I cannot wait to come back next season 15-16 to the New York Philharmonic and to conduct a beautiful program of Dvorak and Bartok.
Hi, I'm Yuzha Wang. I'm extremely thrilled to play next season with New York Phil twice, Mozart Concerto and Messiaen Tarantula. Both works are extremely new and adventurous for me, so I'm looking forward to discover this new journey with the most amazing New York Phil.
Hello, I'm Juraj Valčuha, and I'm thrilled to team up with Prima Bronfman and New York Philharmonic. See you next season.
Hi, I'm Andrew Norman, and I'm super excited for the world premiere of my new piano concerto with Jeffrey Kahane and the New York Philharmonic.
Hi, I'm James Gaffigan, and I'm really excited to be coming to the New York Philharmonic to make my debut, my subscription debut, not just because of the incredible repertoire on the program, including a world premiere of Andrew Norman, but because I'm a New Yorker and I went to school right across the street from Lincoln Center, so it's like a homecoming. It's always been a dream to be on the stage with the Phil, and the fact that it's happening so early is really exciting for me.
Esa-Pekka brings to the fore, I think, a very, very creative new writing.
Salonen, being a horn player himself, really knows how to challenge us horn players.
It is going to be very exciting to perform Messiaen's Tarantula Symphony with Esa-Pekka Salonen.
I'm sure he'll have a lot of great ideas, and it'll be really nice to work with him.
Eric Owens is a really exciting artist.
Yeah, wonderful singer. We'll be doing some Wagner with him, the Valkyrie, which of course for the low brass is fantastic. It's some of the best writing for trombone, so that'll be a lot of fun to hear him singing.
Next season I'm looking forward to a lot of things. One of them is the Rachmaninoff Festival with Daniil Trifonov.
Well, what I'm really looking forward is the concert with Charles Dutoit. It's very special for me because I grew up with him conducting the Montreal Symphony when I was little, and even just talking about it, I have goosebumps.
Mahler 6 with Bischoff. Anytime the Philharmonic does Mahler, it's a treat.
There's a lot of amazing music by Brahms. We're doing his Requiem and the first and second symphonies. The second symphony for me has always been one of my favorite pieces, with its brighter tone, a little cheerier, a little more optimistic for Brahms. And in this symphony, there's so many amazing moments for the cello section to really come through, and playing this piece is always a huge highlight for me.
Some of the highlights of the season are when my colleagues are featured as soloists. I have so many talented colleagues. It's always a joy to see them playing and featured in this way. This season is going to be particularly special since we have a tuba concerto. How often do you get a tuba concerto? So that is truly a highlight for me. I'll be looking forward to that and all the other weeks when my colleagues are featured in this way.
Well, you get an idea of some of what we're doing and the energy and enthusiasm that we try to bring to everything we do. A couple of other things that I am excited about myself are all the Sibelius pieces we'll be doing. It's the 150th anniversary of Sibelius's birth, and I'll be actually doing 6 pieces. It's a nice coincidence that Esa-Pekka, as a Finn, is as excited, I think, about this as we are. Sibelius's 4th symphony doesn't come around that often. It's been years since I've done it. I'm very, well, happy is not exactly the word to say when talking about this piece, because it's one of the most unrelentingly grim pieces, but there's something so profoundly telling about his take on the human condition. I think it's, in a way, my favorite symphony, and I hope it's a meaningful experience, if not a joyous one for our audience when we do that. I'll also be joining in a kind of continuation of the Messiaen theme, musicians of the orchestra, and Inon Barnatan. I'll be playing violin in Messiaen's Quartet for the End of Time. And this is, we're very interested in presenting a lot of Messiaen over the next years, and one of the unusual things about this presentation will be the collaboration with the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and the location for this performance will be at the Temple of Dendur, which I think will be an ideal kind of mystical place to play this most mystical work. Just chime in, Matthew or Ed or whomever, because there's a lot to talk about, but maybe we don't, as I said, have to go through everything.
You've got some great new premieres this next year. Frank Krycek, Mark Nykrug, and Magnus Lindberg.
It's nice. I mean, Frank is a new composer for me, but he is his involvement is an outgrowth of the Kravis Prize that we gave to Henri Dutilleux a couple of years ago. And Henri has, of course, sadly passed away since then. But before he did, we talked about how he wanted to use this award from the New York Philharmonic, and he realized at that point that he wouldn't be able to write a work himself. That's what we asked for, but he, in a typically selfless gesture, chose some composers to essentially pass the commission on to, and Frank was someone that he really believes in, so that will lead to this premiere. Mark Nykrug and Magnus Lindberg are, of course, dear friends, and it's nice. I think it's especially nice for Magnus, having been our first composer in residence, to continue his relationship. Obviously, he's an important composer for us, but someone that we will continue to play, despite his not having a title.
And there's a lot of Mahler next year. So you mentioned Bernard doing the 9th, but you're doing Das Lied and the 5th, and talk about the importance of Mahler to any season that a music director of the New York Philharmonic puts together.
Well, as you heard from the video, to do Mahler, Eric talked about it with this orchestra, is different, is special. Obviously, nobody's in the orchestra from the time that Mahler was the music director, but still there is a direct line, and you can feel it. You can feel Lenny's influence. Lenny's way with Mahler was inimitable and crucial for the history of Mahler performance. And this orchestra, as much as any orchestra, has Mahler in its bones. And I've always felt fortunate to be able to do Mahler with this orchestra. And the Lied von der Erde, which is one of my favorite pieces, something I've done a lot elsewhere, but never with the New York Philharmonic. It's really nice to be able to do it, and especially with Tom, who's such a great proponent of Mahler's music.
One thing I wanted to mention that we're continuing in 15-16 is the third installment of the Art of the Score project, and this was something that Alan kicked off 2 years ago with, I think, a bewildering presentation of Stanley Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. We've been very fortunate to have Alec Baldwin, who is on our board, who has really been a great artistic advisor working with us. And so for next year, we didn't really plan it this way, but it ends up being sort of a Marlon Brando fest. We are doing the world premiere presentation of On the Waterfront. And of course, our former music director, Maestro Bernstein, wrote the music and the score for that. And then we're also doing the great Francis Ford Coppola, The Godfather, with live orchestra. So those will happen in September of 2015. So we're excited about continuing that film and music tradition here at the Philharmonic.
And just finally, from my standpoint, the fact that we have such an incredible array of pianists appearing with us is worthy of note. In the early part of the season, we have many acts. You saw him. You saw Lang Lang, Yu Zhao Wang, Inon Barnatan, but also not in the season, but in a special concert will be Maurizio Pollini, who hasn't played with the orchestra for a long time, and he'll be coming to play Chopin Concerto with me, which is, for me, a dream come true. I've known him for years, but we've never actually collaborated on stage together, so that's a very, very special moment. Do you want to turn to some of the partnerships again?
Yeah.
The recurring theme of partnerships and
I mean,
relationships.
again, partnerships, and I think really education. I know when Alan began here in 2009, it was a priority for him, and I know that when I came here in 2012, it was a big, and remains a big priority for me, which is making our education and our sense of partnership on that front really a front burner issue. So we, just this past fall, have announced something called the New York Philharmonic Global Academy. And this really emanated from our partnership in Shanghai. We have a 4-year partnership with the Shanghai Symphony Orchestra and the Shanghai Conservatory of Music to bring New York Philharmonic musicians periodically throughout the year to teach in Shanghai. This began in earnest in September. This past September, we brought 9 musicians to Shanghai to begin teaching the first class of the Shanghai Orchestra Academy. It was an amazing, not only educational but cultural thing to witness in terms of working with these young musicians. That work continues throughout the year, and we will of course be in Shanghai this coming July for our first orchestral residency with the full New York Philharmonic in Shanghai. We also announced an exciting partnership last year with the Music Academy of the West, which is a great summer music training academy in Santa Barbara, California. Last summer, Alan went to Santa Barbara to work with the Music Academy students and did an absolutely riveting concert with one of their orchestras. And we also had some musicians from the Philharmonic as guest faculty for a week. But we also selected 10 students from the Music Academy to become Zaran Mehta Fellows and to bring them here to New York. And we just had them here in New York for 10 days from January 3rd through the 13th. We really, I like to say that we threw them into the deep end. We really brought them into the New York Philharmonic environment. They rehearsed, they performed with the orchestra, with Alan on the podium. They took lessons, they did a mock audition on the stage of Avery Fisher Hall. They played chamber music, they did educational workshops, they went out to one of our partner schools. It was really fantastic to watch the interaction of these young musicians who are really on the cusp, if not already entering their professional life, to really work alongside our musicians. It was truly inspirational to see. They did a fantastic job, and I commend Alan and all of our musicians and our team, our staff team here, who did an incredible job putting this together. So these are two, really linchpin partners for us on the Global Academy. There will be additional partners that we will announce later in 2015, but this is a huge component to what we do now. So it's integrated into all of our thinking around touring as we design residencies. For instance, we will start our multi-year residency with the University of Michigan in October of 2015. UMS, which is probably the greatest university presenter in America, Ken Fisher and their team there. We are delighted to be bringing the orchestra there every other year starting in 2015. And as we think about our tours, more often than not now, education, this Global Academy idea, these things are integrated from the very beginning into our touring projects, whether it's doing a young people's concert in Tokyo with Alan narrating in Japanese, or thinking about what we'll do in Ann Arbor this coming October in terms of working with the University of Michigan School of Music students. We're really proud of this initiative. We think it's not only important for advancing the next generation of musicians, but we think it's also important for the Philharmonic and how we are a larger and a greater musical resource here in New York and around the world. How's that for a mouthful?
Well, I mean, it was brilliant. I couldn't put it better myself, but it does completely coincide with my hope of making meaningful connections and relationships with our audiences, not just in New York, but everywhere we play. There are no examples of concerts in which it doesn't matter what they take away from it, and what we offer is potentially so much more than just a concert experience. And the fact that we're able to touch down and put down roots, in fact, in more and more places in a meaningful way is, I think, it goes right along with our vision, but it also makes it possible for that vision to be consistent across the board in everything we do.